This 4-game weekend series, the Cardinals and the Cincinnati Reds. We'll take a look now at Mike Matheny's starting lineup. And Tom, we mentioned just moments ago, this is a little surprising, very surprising in some cases, to see Molina out of the lineup. Peralta out. We know he's had some tired legs recently, but what do you make of Molina not being in there?
Well, it's manager's responsibility. Understand, know when your players need a rest. Molina has started 8 consecutive games. Of course, this is a day game after a night game, and Peralta has just been on fumes for the last week or so.
And no doubt factoring into the decisions today for Mike Matheny. You certainly cannot call today a must-win game for the Cardinals by any stretch of the imagination, but they are looking to stop a slide as they've now lost 7 of their last 9. They've dropped the first 2 games of the series here in Cincinnati. Anthony DeSclafani will be up on the mound today for the Reds, getting the start here in Game 3 as we take a look at Joey Votto. And Votto playing today just like he did last night under suspension. He is appealing a 2-game suspension by the league as we look back to Wednesday. And here's what happened. This was starting to brew over the course of this at-bat, Tom.
Well, right here, you're going to see him put his hand up and ask for time. Nothing going on right now, but this is a veteran player. At this point, he's going to say, give me some time here. Right there. And he's not getting it. He asked again, doesn't get it. Asked the 3rd time, and according to Joey, he said, please, 3 times. And now he says, hey, this guy's not giving me any time. And Bill Welke is not putting up with being shown up, and that's the way he interpreted Votto's behavior. And this is an all-time meltdown by Joey Votto.
And his manager, Brian Price, comes out to defend him. Las Diaz had to run some serious umpire interference there, as Votto, as we said, playing under suspension, appealing that suspension. So it is Votto at first base as we take a look at the rest of the Reds defense today behind DeSclafani. That's Barnhart doing the catching. Phillips at second base as usual. Schumacher is in left field. Hamilton the speedster in center. Bruce in right, and of course Todd Frazier as usual on the hot corner for the Reds.
You know, just finishing up on Joey. Look at DeSclafani here. I'm not sure Joey's going to win that appeal, but he will be hurt, maybe knocked down a game. You know, it's very unusual for an umpire not to afford time when a player asks for it when the pitcher's not in a set position. Joey said that's never happened to him before, but at the same time, that kind of outburst is going to get you, I think, at least 1 game.
This has been a rookie rotation recently for the Reds. DeSclafani, he is the grizzled veteran, Tom.
Yes, he is. What is this, 43 straight games now the Reds have sent a rookie to start the game, and he is the most experienced of them. Real good fastball slider combination, but in the last 2 starts, a curveball has come almost out of nowhere for him to be a very effective pitch. And how about this? He's trying to beat him for a 3rd time. One of only 4 pitchers this year, starting pitchers, to beat the Cardinals twice already. He's done that with a 1.38 ERA.
That's not easy to do. Brian Price now in his 2nd year at the helm of the Reds. And as usual, it's Matt Carpenter, the 3rd baseman for the Redbirds, to begin things in the top of the 1st for St. Louis. So about a 30-minute hiatus between games. The suspended game last night of the 8th because of rain, and after the Reds end up winning that one rather quickly by a final score of 4-2, we are underway here in what is Game 3 of this series.
Saw an indication on the first pitch of the velocity and life on the fastball. Matt Carpenter does not swing often at all at first pitch as he tried to ambush DeSclafani and was late.
DeSclafani, a 2nd-year rookie, acquired last December from Miami. Part of the Matt Latos deal. Of course, Latos, very short career with the Marlins, has moved on.
Just showed the curveball right there. That pitch really had not been in his repertoire. Last start through 16 of them, career high.
Is 1-2 to Carpenter.
Doubled up with it. Not a bad pitch.
It's a pretty firm curveball, low 80s. Really, there was some question during his time in the Marlins organization once he reached the big leagues, and then of course when he came over to the Reds, so whether he would be better served in the bullpen or in the rotation, and he has paid dividends so far for the Reds and their rotation.
Well, the secondary pitches will define whether he remains a starting pitcher. The curveball and the changeup. Both, I would say, still in development stage, but certainly I think he's shown enough this year that going into 2016, you have to look at him as a starting pitcher to see that the development continues.
This is cracked into the gap, and a base hit for Carpenter. All the way back almost to the wall, and Matt Carpenter leads off the game today with a double.
Another guy who sees more pitches per time at bat than anybody in baseball does it once again. The 7th pitch, fastball down at the knees, and that beautiful swing and the two-hand finish from Matt Carpenter. Keeps his head on the baseball for a very long period of time.
Just another double for Carpenter. The only man that has more in the National League is in this ballpark, Todd Frazier. Piscotty climbs in. In a year that has been stamped by injury for the Cardinals, Stephen Piscotty has been, it seems like, Tom, one of many young players to come up and not just fill a spot temporarily, but to come up and really contribute.
Trying to go to the opposite field right here. Takes that one there. That's when you see the defensive alignment of the Reds. Joey Votto was so wide of first base trying to take away that hole between first and second. But one of the things this guy does as a young player, like a lot of the Cardinals do, uses the entire field, and he knows his job here is to try to move the runner over.
Little flare, and it dumps into right field. Carpenter held at third, and the Cardinals right away have runners on the corners.
I mean, that's just beautiful baseball right there. Got jammed and still was able to fight that pitch off the other way. Had right field on his mind the entire time. Watch him pull his hands in. Didn't try to pull that ball. It's a good pitch from DeSclafani, knowing a hitter wants to go the other way. Tied him up, still got the job done. Here's our 4 keys to the game for the Cardinals. Take a lead role. They're 56-14 when they score first. And for the Reds, make Billy Hamilton a thorn in the side. It's a different game when he's on base.
Hayward lays off the first pitch.
I got to explain those keys, though. You know, it's Hit King Day here in Cincinnati.
It really
They're
is.
hiring Pete Rose. So that was the theme of my keys right there. Leading off and a thorn. Pete Rose.
It's all coming together now.
All right.
The explanation, we appreciate it. A ball and a strike to Hayward. Maybe got something in his eye there. DeSclafani leading all major league rookies in innings pitched, 4th in strikeouts. Coming off a strong start his last time out against the Pirates, he worked into the 8th inning. Allowed just 1 run.
That's his best pitch right there. That's the hard slider with the bite. And the location of this is perfect to a left-handed hitter. You see where Barnhart is set up. It's right underneath the barrel.
That pitch gets him ahead of Hayward, 1-2. You think about this Reds rotation. Cueto gone on to Kansas City. Mike Leake gone to San Francisco. Today, the 43rd straight game started by a rookie. And last night's start ended up setting a new major league record when Michael Lorenzen got the start for the Reds.
By the way, you know who had the old record? The Cardinals.
How about that? from
of
forever
1902.
ago.
A record that had held up since 1902.
It's incredible. You remember that 5-man rotation, right, Tom? You're a historian of the game.
Well, that team finished 56 and 78, a mere 44 and a half games out.
Off the tip of the glove, Suarez scores Carpenter. Scotty trots it to second base. Hayward hits it hard, and the Cardinals are on the board first, 1-0 St. Louis.
Now that ball is a bullet. When you play double play depth, you're going to concede range. And watch where Suarez is. He's in a little bit, and coming in at double play depth, unable to reach up and get that line drive.
First 3 men for the Cardinals reach. A couple of singles, pardon me, the double as well from Carpenter to begin things. Reynolds batting cleanup, and he goes around. DeSclafani beat the Cardinals in back-to-back starts. The first one ended July, then his second start against the Cardinals began August, and pitched very well against St. Louis in those 2 starts. Only 2 runs over 13 innings with a dozen strikeouts. Has given up an early run here today, though.
There's that curveball again. Probably left that one up more than he wanted to. You know, I asked him about that, and he said really at the end of last season in September, changed the grip, went to a spike grip on that curveball, and then went to the Arizona Fall League. And that was a great opportunity to throw that curveball, really not in high pressure situations, and he really built on that coming into this season.
Reynolds fights another one off.
And if you're going to be a starting pitcher in the major leagues, you really have to have enough to pitch to a lineup 3 times around. And the fastball slider combination, unless it's just wipeout stuff, not enough. So that curveball is going to make him, I believe, a fixture in this Reds rotation.
And that pitch count of 20 without recording an out so far will limit the length that he can stay on the mound today unless he cleans something up.
One thing they love about him, Aaron, other than stuff, he is aggressive. He's got a lot of grit, goes right after hitters. You're seeing it right here with Reynolds attacking him.
Price, former pitching coach, now manager.
That's the inconsistency with that curveball. If you make mistakes with it in the zone, they get hit a long way, especially by this guy, Reynolds.
He has 2 on in front of him, and he's down swinging. That time the heat. And there's the first out of the ball game.
You call it 94 miles an hour. Great location. Watch the catcher's glove right here. Really doesn't have to move it at all.
And some frustration from Reynolds. 1 out, 2 on for Moss, who has good numbers against DeSclafani. 4 for 9 with a homer. Takes inside for ball 1. Moss, one of the more outgoing guys in the game, said recently once he came over to St. Louis, this is the best clubhouse, the most fun clubhouse he's ever been a part of. Which is saying something when you consider the motley clubhouses that he was a part of in Oakland.
I was going to say that one immediately comes to mind. A little bit different atmosphere here in St. Louis. They have their fun, but certainly a professional atmosphere as well.
1 out, 2 on. Cardinals getting on the board early with Hayward's RBI single up the middle.
I'll tell you one thing I like about their clubhouse, Aaron, is Mike Matheny started this. Everybody gets treated equally. If you're a young kid and you're just up from the minor leagues, you don't have to fetch coffee for the veterans or pay your dues in terms of social activities. And that was really a big thing for Mike, to establish that everybody's equal. You're a teammate whether you have 1 day in the big leagues or 10 years in the big leagues. And to me, it's no surprise that when the Stephen Piscotty's of the world come up and the Greg Garcias and the Colton Wongs, they contribute right away. You feel comfortable from day one.
3-1 to Moss.
I've always had a big problem with that. I mean, I won't tell you who it was, but I know one veteran. Obviously, it's not a Cardinal story. He told the rookie to go get him coffee. The rookie brought him coffee, and the veteran took the cup and spilled it over his shoes.
No.
Just to establish I'm a veteran and you're not. And that was in the game and still is, but it's in the game a long time. And the Cardinals just don't buy into that macho atmosphere.
Full count to Moss. Oh, it makes sense when you think about it. A guy like Piscotty, who has contributed even in his early days as a member of the Cardinals. If you're Mike Matheny, if you're a veteran on this team, you might need Piscotty to help you win a ball game and a clutch at bat. And if you're pouring coffee on his feet, that doesn't help out.
And I think that's what Brandon Moss was getting at in terms of just the comfort level with this team.
A lot of pitches here in the top of the first, but he gets Moss cutting through it as the pitch count approaching 30 now for DeSclafani, but he gets out number 2.
3-2 slider, not a great pitch. He's going to chase it, but a good result for DeSclafani, and goes back talking to himself.
We saw Reynolds do the same thing. First 3 men reached, the last 2 punched out. Here comes Colton Wong. A throw down to second. Piscotty back in there safely.
Nice job by Barnhart here. The anticipation on the aggressive secondary lead with 2 outs. Plenty of time to get back.
Colton Wong in the lineup for the first time in a while. A calf injury has been nagging him a little bit. Well, if you're DeSclafani now, you've got a chance to get out of this top of the first and make things a lot more manageable than at first it looked like they would be. Carpenter, the leadoff double. Piscotty, Hayward, singles. But now back-to-back strikeouts. As he's burned through 31 pitches now to get the first 2 outs.
Yeah, that's something to keep your eye on, obviously, especially because the first batter of the inning got on base. That means 24 of those 31 pitches thrown out of the stretch. Stress pitches.
Two and two on Wong.
Let's see if he goes back to that slider down and in. Wong, one of the few left-handed hitters that ball down and in, actually not in his nitro zone.
And he ties him up. He gets him swinging. So DeSclafani strikes out the side after the first 3 men reach, and it could have been a lot worse for the Reds. Cardinals up early 1-0. Meet the Reds starting lineup here today for Game 3 of this series against the St. Louis Cardinals. Billy Hamilton leading things off. Joey Votto, who has been on absolute fire since the All-Star break. Batting third, Jay Bruce in right field. Todd Frazier on the hot corner. Ron Hart doing the catching and batting eighth. Lance Lynn up on the mound looking to right the ship for the Cardinals. And we know this much about Lance Lynn, Tom. He throws fastballs, he throws more fastballs, and then he throws more fastballs after that. He throws that pitch a ton. He
does. I mean, mainly four-seamers, sinkers, and cutters as well. Very aggressive with all of those three pitches.
First pitch missing to Hamilton, a guy that you want to keep off the base paths more than probably any other guy in baseball. Reached all the way to third base 3 times in Game 2 and came home only once.
Really impressed last night. Had an excellent bunt. His 11th bunt hit of the season.
Showing bunt there, taking.
This is something you see a lot on the road for a starting pitcher after you warm up and your team has a long top of the first inning. Not unusual to see the guy come out after that rest and not be sharp. And I watched Lynn warm up. He was the first one on the field, but just through the normal 8 warm-ups.
And he fights back to push the count full to Hamilton. Lost him. Hamilton, a leadoff walk. Right away, the Reds have the tying run at first base. Take a look at the Cardinals defense. No Yadier Molina. It is Cruz behind home plate. And an interesting outfield. Hayward making only his 4th start in center field. Brandon Moss was in right field a lot earlier this season in the American League with the Indians, but his first start in right field in a Cardinals uniform.
And anybody other than Molina certainly is a different story and a downgrade. And that's no knock on Tony Cruz. It's a compliment to Molina, but 3 starts with Cruz behind the plate. Lynn has an ERA of 6. With Molina, it's 2.87.
That's a big swing.
This is a good matchup for Hamilton. I say matchup with Lynn because Lynn is so quick to the plate. Only 2 stolen bases allowed in 26 starts this year.
Hayward, an easy route for out number 1. Keeps Hamilton at first base, and it brings in Votto. The numbers in the second half for Votto have been absolutely incredible. And it's just not a matter of taking ball 4. He is hitting. He is hitting with pop. He is getting on base. He's doing it all offensively right now.
Well, we know you're not going to get him outside of the strike zone. He will take his walks. He will make you come into the strike zone, but he will jump on first pitch fastballs.
Keeping an eye on Hamilton.
You know, if the Cardinals posted wanted posters in their clubhouse, you'd see one of this guy because they haven't caught him yet. They've never thrown out Billy Hamilton. Looked like a rare changeup right there from Lance Lynn, knowing that Votto can be aggressive on first pitch fastballs.
Outside to make it 2-0. Hamilton a leadoff walk. And Votto ahead of the count 3-0. Votto doing a lot of landscaping inside the batter's box. Appeal, and it's ball 4. 4-pitch walk to Votto, and the Reds have 2 on with 1 out. Now we take a look at our DraftKings players to watch. Tom.
Well, for the Cardinals, Colton Wong back in the lineup from that calf injury, and Joey Votto, players to watch. Nobody watches the baseball better than Joey. I mean, that really amounted to a pitch around, it seemed like, and trying to get Brandon Phillips now to roll over on something for a ground ball, but don't want to deal with Joey Votto right now. Watch him track this baseball here. He's swinging 3-0. That's not a take. And the ability to stop the swing, saying that's not good enough for me.
He's at first, Hamilton at second. And here's Brandon Phillips. It's easy to forget how long Phillips has been in the game for. Drafted at one point by the Expos, and he has really been the Reds' most consistent hitter all season.
It really has been. Maybe not with the same kind of extra base power, but he loves hitting with runners on base. And right now you can also see how Billy Hamilton can influence the at bat for the hitter, because Colton Wong has to really hold him so close to second base. It opens up a much bigger hole on the right side. And Brandon Phillips, to me, a different hitter with runners on base. Loves to hit the ball the other way if you pitch him away with a runner on second. That hole's much bigger because of Hamilton's speed.
Now Lynn has not thrown many strikes. Gets one there to Phillips. You can see the breakdown. Reds have the tying run at second. The go ahead at first. Glove to center. Hayward in front of the warning track. Hamilton tags and easily gets into third base.
The ball was hit extremely hard. Jason Hayward is the complete opposite of Peter Burgess, who we saw playing here in center field the other night. Plays probably the most shallow center field in baseball. Jason Hayward is a couple of area codes away out in center field.
You normally see him in right. Making his 4th start this season, and they've all been recently in center field, all since mid-August. Runners on the corners for Jay Bruce. Taking off. There goes Votto, and he will just tiptoe into second.
Yeah, we saw him do this twice last night. First and third, you have to respect Hamilton's speed so much. There's really no chance of the ball being thrown down to second base. And the way Votto plays it is he's going to read the play first. In other words, if they do throw down, he will stop in his tracks and get in a rundown. Green light was on, so as you said, he tiptoed in there. Fred Flintstone style.
Exactly. Well, from a strategic standpoint, you're Brian Price in that case managing to the players that he has. If that's an easy base or an easy run, depending on how it works out.
Well, and again, it's the influence, the threat of the speed of Billy Hamilton. Now you get 2 runners in scoring position. A single can cost you 2 instead of 1.
Right back over the middle. And on to first. The Reds strand a couple, both in scoring position, and what was a little bit of a rocky bottom of the first comes out okay for Lance Lynn. Brothers pictures in theaters everywhere soon, September 18th. Glad you could join us for Fox Saturday Baseball. Aaron Goldsmith, Tom Verducci, and our entire Fox Sports crew. Both starting pitchers in this one today. Tom in the first inning, a little rocky for DeSclafani. The first 3 men reaching, but then 3 straight punch-outs.
Yeah, well, I guess if you throw 33 pitches, you're actually happy giving up only 1 run. You saw the stuff there and the grit with the runners on base with the 3 consecutive punch-outs.
Now facing the bottom third of the Cardinals order, it leads off with catcher Tony Cruz. No Yadier Molina in the lineup.
I'm sure, Aaron, that a Cardinal fan probably saw this lineup today and said, what are we doing? No Peralta, no Molina. But I love what Mike Matheny did with the lineup here. I think it's a message to this team that, hey, guys, we're okay. We don't need to change our plans because we've lost 7 out of 9. I'm sure he probably alerted a couple of these guys, especially Cruz. They'd be in the lineup today. Stick to the plan.
Plenty of Cardinals fans coming out for this series here in Cincinnati. Really, that was Matheny's message to the media the other day when talking about this recent slide for St. Louis. And his message was a simple one, which is every team goes through this at some point in the year. For the Cardinals, this really happens to be their first all season, and it's coming in September, which magnifies it a little bit more.
Yeah, you could say the timing isn't great, having it, as you said, in September. But to me, it's a lot about the routines of the starting pitchers. You know, they've given extra days by design to Carlos Martinez and Michael Wacha, and they haven't really been sharp because of that. And Lynn, not by design, got extra days when that Rocky start his last time out. Nothing, I don't think, to be concerned about long term.
Popped up, Suarez. Out number 1. All right, now let's check in with Ryan Field for a game break. Ryan? All right, Ryan, thank you. Boy, that could be a big one. Tom, depending on what Tulo's status is.
It's just amazing how often the guy gets hurt. Part of the risk of taking on that contract. The risk of injury.
Ball to strike to Garcia. Garcia homered last night in the 4th. That tied things up. Second home run in the big leagues this year. Phillips to his right knee for out number 2.
That's exactly the kind of inning that DeSclafani needed after that 33 pitch first, 7, 8, 9. Stay in attack mode. Now he's got the pitcher up. Base is empty, 2 outs.
That first inning could have gone south very quickly for DeSclafani and the Reds. Was able to strand 2 base runners. Drifting towards the line, but Bruce is there in fair ground. 9 pitches, and that's exactly what DeSclafani needed. A very quick top of the 2nd. find new roads. Follow the September pennant races with MLB.com At Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Enjoy live look-ins, highlights, replay reviews, scores, StatCasts, radio broadcasts, and more. Get MLB.com At Bat now.
Down in front.
You never know what you might see. Nice crowd on hand today. There is Todd Frazier to begin things with the Reds' second. The All-Star game held this year here in Cincinnati. And it seemed like, Tom, baseball fans across America, if they hadn't already, fell in love with Todd Frazier winning the home run derby. And that was in a season that has been very difficult, no doubt, for the Reds. That was a highlight moment for Cincinnati, for the entire city.
No question. A lot because of this guy right here. I know in Cincinnati they call Sean Casey the mayor. This guy's the next best thing. Deputy mayor, maybe?
That might be next. Two balls and a strike. And here it is.
Yeah, what a show he put on, huh? A little bit of adrenaline going that night. And please don't tell me about the home run derby jinx or the curse or he ruined his swing. These guys work so hard at hitting, work their whole lives to hit a baseball, and they think one day of home run derby they quote unquote lose their swing. It's totally ridiculous, but it makes for a nice little urban legend, nice little narrative, but just doesn't apply.
I'm glad I didn't bring it up. There's a walk. That's the third today already from Lance Lynn.
It's unusual to see Todd hitting in that 6th spot. Only the 2nd time. I think partly because he has been struggling and because he's got poor numbers against Lance Lynn.
Yeah, 4 for 29. Eugenio Suarez, the shortstop, climbing in with Frazier aboard at first. All 3 base runners early for the Reds, all coming on ball 4. For Lance Lynn, that is the first pitch strike of the day.
Hasn't thrown many strikes, period, through just 6 in the 1st inning and somehow escaped unscathed.
Up the middle, backhand, a step on second, and the stretch by Reynolds at first. What a play there by Colton Wong.
A nice footwork, really took his time. Put the brakes on, knew he had time to get there. And watch Moss with the footwork. Stays on the bag. Sorry, that's Reynolds at first base today.
Rare to see Moss in right field where he is this afternoon. That wipes away the leadoff walk. 2 outs, base is empty for the catcher, Barnhart. Wong ranging across his chest. The scoop can't be handled. Barnhart, a 2-out base runner.
I think Colton Wong, if he had to do it again, would make sure he set himself. He had more time than he thought. He does have a great arm. He's got a shortstop arm at second, but see the body continuing to go away from first. He had time to plant and throw with the catcher running. And that was the biggest at bat in Brownsburg, Indiana in a long time, by the way. That was Mr. Indiana 2005, Mr. Baseball Indiana 2005, Lance Lynn, against Mr. Baseball 2009, Barnhart.
The rivalry continues.
Brownsburg High School. How about that?
It goes down as an error by Colton Wong. Brings in the pitcher, DeSclafani. Easy couple of hops Garcia's way, and that will end it for the Reds in the bottom of the 2nd. We're off to the top of the 3rd. It'll be Matt Carpenter leading things off for the Cardinals when we come back. In the social world, as receiving this tweet from Tyler, there was pregame yoga, if you can believe it. You heard that right, on the field here at Great America Ballpark. You can tag your post with hashtag #SwingData, and T-Mobile will keep the conversation going. Data strong all season long. But Tom, this is a thing. Rosie looking on, making sure everybody's got proper form.
Quite the crowd out there. Rosie's got to work on the flexibility.
It's kind of weak. Here's the first pitch to Carpenter. And as we were saying, the grounds crew has been busy this year in Cincinnati. Didn't think yoga would be a part of things.
24 hours plus of rain delays in this ballpark this year.
Absolutely incredible. The Rockies have had hours upon hours of delays this year as well, but 2 suspensions, 5 postponements for the Reds this year, and a total of 17 delays here at Great American Ballpark.
And between innings, I got to point this out. One of the worst sights you ever want to see on a baseball field. We saw the groundskeeper came out with his smartphone talking to Jim Joyce, the home plate umpire.
That's not a good sign.
That is not a good thing, folks. It's all about Doppler radar.
And we knew there would be a chance of rain at some point today. Last night's game suspended, picked up today, as the Reds ended up winning that one by a final score of 4-2. Thanks to one swing, Adam Duvall, the 2-run shot off the top of the padded wall in right field. This is cranked out to right. Bruce is by the warning track. And Carpenter out number 1.
It's part of the new analytics movement in baseball, Aaron. The old days, they used to ask the old coach at the end of the bench, how's your knee feel? Is it going to rain?
Who's got the Farmer's Almanac?
They got the smartphone.
Stephen Piscotty is single. He dropped into right field his last time up. We talked about earlier these young players who have come up from the farm for the Cardinals this year and have made an impact, like Piscotty. And when he was talking about that yesterday, one of the things that he said that was so interesting was that throughout the entire organization in the farm system for St. Louis, they preach winning, which we know, Tom, is something that if you're in the minor leagues and you're just trying to get up to the big leagues, it can be pretty easy to make sure you get your 2 hits in each and every night. But he said that when you're in the Cardinals minor league system, it's all about winning. And this idea of that it's all about player development isn't necessarily the case. And he said when you come up to the big league level, now if you go 0 for 3 but you move a runner to third base, if you help the team win, that's what counts. So that takes a lot of pressure off you. 2 outs.
Oh, here's the difference for DeSclafani. Last 2 starts, the spiked curveball. This is an excellent one. The location, the downward break off the table. You know, getting back what he said about the minor leagues, it reminds me Derek Jeter when he was retiring his last year. One of the things he told me was that what really has been lost in the game, exactly what you just spoke about. He was coming up in the Yankees system at a time where it was stressed to win games, not just to develop, but the twin goal was to win games. To the point that the spread, the clubhouse food after the game, was entirely dependent on whether you won or lost.
Really?
Yes. Get steak if you won. I guess you got gruel when you lost.
Stale peanut butter and jelly. DeSclafani ahead 1-2 to Hayward. 2 outs, nobody on.
Well, speaking about development in the minor leagues, how about this rotation? This is Toronto's team, Class A ball 2012, the Lansing Lugnuts. All those guys in the major leagues right now. Only one with the Jays, Aaron Sanchez. And he's not in the rotation. Doing a great job out of the bullpen. Justin Nicolino, Anthony DeSclafani, Noah Syndergaard, David Rollins, Aaron Sanchez. You talk about a collection of arms.
Yeah, Syndergaard's the name that really jumps out. Sanchez, too. And what a rookie campaign for DeSclafani this year. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Hayward. RBI single back in the first inning. He's off and looks at a full count.
By the way, those lug nuts, they're pretty good. 82 and 55.
That'll do it.
You're pitching like that, an entire rotation 3 years later in the big leagues.
Gets some whiffing. The side retired in order, and Estefani has himself 5 early strikeouts. The third, and it's a real treat right now to be joined by one of the nicest guys in the game, Adam Wainwright, joining us from inside the Cardinals dugout. And Adam, it really hurt the entire baseball community to see you go down early this year with the Achilles injury, and the progress that you have been making is phenomenal. I know you've thrown a bullpen session recently. How is the Achilles feeling?
Gosh, I can't really complain. I mean, it's gone much smoother than I thought it was going to go. You know, everybody was kind of telling me horror stories about rehab protocol and just the pains that come with Achilles injuries every day, waking up, going to bed, the daily grind. And I really haven't experienced that yet. So knock on wood, that stays the same.
Well, Adam, I know that you've been bugging Mike Matheny, telling him you want to make it as difficult as possible. Give us your plan, or at least best case scenario from this point on, in terms of your workload, throwing to hitters. What's next?
Yeah, I hear you. Man, I wish I could do that. I really do. And our general manager and medical staff, they just can't, they can't give me a for sure day. And it's not really fair for me to say days when I don't know either. I do know that I have to pass some tests coming up after our road trip coming up when I go see the doctor again, and I'll know more in about 10 days.
Adam, you are such a presence inside the Cardinals clubhouse, and you don't necessarily say that about starting pitchers, but you certainly break the mold. You make an exception in that case. What does it mean to you to now be on the road with the team, especially over the final month, and a really big month for the Cardinals here to end things?
Hopefully a good presence.
I think so. I think that's what we were alluding to.
Yeah, good and bad. I just think all hands on deck here. When you got, I consider myself a team leader, and I think the team does as well. And so when we're coming down the stretch right here, this is where we make our money, right? This is the most important time of the year, and we got you know, 3 or 4 game lead right now, and we're grinding our tails off. We hit kind of a rough patch, and so, you know, if you got a guy or a couple of guys that can come in here and try to lighten the mood and get guys ready to play every day, then invite them on the trip. And that's why I'm here. I can't contribute in any other way besides being the best cheerleader I can possibly be.
Comic relief. That's why you got you around here, huh?
That's exactly right. You know, I have a couple of bad jokes, and I'm pretty ugly, so people feel good around me, you know.
Well, seriously, I mean, Cardinal fans, as you know, probably a little bit concerned at this point because it had been a nice ride for 5 months. But give them an idea of what the atmosphere is like around the club right now.
Well, we're still very positive, you know. I mean, golly, baseball is a hard enough game. To think that you can go 162 games without a couple of weeks stretch where you're not playing good baseball is just kind of silly. You know, everybody goes through a patch like this. We've been going through a rough patch right now. We haven't been pitching the way we can. We haven't been hitting the way we can, playing D the way we can, except for right there.
Speaking of defense, out at first. What a play by Garcia.
That's the way baseball is, right? You talk about something being bad, it goes the opposite way. But, you know, we could always play better, and we have played better all year, and we're going to get back to that soon. We're going to get back to that real soon.
How about this play right here, Adam? The effort, the extension, and my least favorite play in baseball, a hit for a slide into first base.
Skippy Shoe's known for that. That's one of his patented moves.
You know, Adam, since we risk losing you here with 2 outs, love to talk real quickly about big league impact. You are one of the more charitable guys in baseball. You are also a fantasy football fanatic. Can you tell us about big league impact? And right on cue.
Go to bigleagueimpact.org. Go to bigleagueimpact.org and learn all about it. Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
At least we got it in there. Thank you, Adam.
I appreciate it.
Poor timing for a 1-2-3 11 pitch inning. We go to the 4th. Cardinals have the lead. Is sponsored by Bank of America, who invites you to keep sharing your favorite baseball memories all season long. And by Head & Shoulders with Old Spice, smell 100% manly. Begin things in the top of the 4th. It's Mark Reynolds to lead things off for the Cardinals, who lead it 1-0 here in Game 3 of the series. And it's nice to be joined now by Zach Kozar from inside the Reds dugout. And Zach, really sad to see your season cut short because of knee surgery. How are you feeling these days?
I'm doing well. You know, it'll be 13 weeks on Monday, so it seems like an eternity. But I'm slowly but surely getting back into it, throwing a little bit, doing some agility. So it's coming along pretty good.
Obviously a difficult season for the Reds, Zach, but in the last 43 games, all these games started by rookie pitchers. Tell me what you see of the young group, especially the guy going today, Anthony DeSclafani.
Yeah, it's been a weird season with injuries and stuff, but I've been impressed with our young guys. Obviously early, they got thrown into the fire. They had to kind of try to learn some stuff in the big leagues, which is tough to do when you're facing the guys you face day in and day out up here. So. But I'm impressed with Disco on the mound right now. He's been one of our go-to guys ever since we traded Leak and Cueto. And you need those guys. You need those stoppers. We always leaned on Cueto and Leak early in the year to stop those losing streaks, and you need them. So Disco and Iglesias have been really impressive, and the other guys too. Commanding the ball's been the key thing, and I think they're getting better at it.
You bring up the trades of Cueto and Leak, and in a season for the Reds where things have obviously not gone Cincinnati's way, is there any type of maybe a more energy, a sense of looking forward to the years to come when you get some fresh faces, some young faces, and especially in the Reds case this year, these aren't trades that are made to have guys go down to the minor leagues. A lot of the players that have come back have been put namely right in the rotation.
Yeah, which I think is big for our future. Put him in AAA, AA, whatever it is, I don't think would help him out right now. I think they need to learn up here, and I think they're progressing pretty good. Anytime you start 5 rookies in a row for so long, you're going to have your rough days, rough patches, but day in and day out, all you ask for is to have a chance to win the game, and they've been pitching a lot better lately. Yep.
Well, the foundation of this team, still Joey Votto. What a second half he's having now. Zach, you've played with him a while. You know the intensity he brings to every single pitch, not just every at-bat. Yeah. But what we saw the other day,
yeah.
that was new levels of intensity. What'd you think of that?
You know what? I'm on Joey's side on this. Obviously he doesn't condone how he reacted after he got thrown out, but I don't think it was fair for Bill to not give him time. That was a tough situation. I think it was first and second. We have our best hitter up in like the 8th inning or something. So that we had the perfect scenario of who we wanted up there in that situation, and to get him thrown out right there was tough. But yeah, Joey is not like anybody else. He knows. I saw a stat that after that game saying on a 2-1 pitch he hits like 440 in his career, and on a 1-2 it's like 2-something. So that's a big difference, and I'm sure he knows that. So the odds went down for him. So, but yeah, the intensity he has day in and day out, not only hitting, he defensively too. So, he's a different guy out there compared to a lot of guys. He's so intense.
Well, Zach, I want you to give baseball fans an idea as you see the third strike there past Moss. How unusual is it in general for an umpire not to grant time when the pitcher is not in a set position?
Yeah, with the new rules this year, not stepping out of the box and unless there's some action like a foul ball or a swing, that's the only reason Joey would ask for time right there, because he took the pitch and it was a strike. And you don't. I would say you rarely see it. Usually the umpire says, take your time, whatever. So it was a weird situation, and hopefully it doesn't happen again, because like I said, it's tough when you have your guy up to the plate in the 8th inning and that's who you want, and then he gets thrown out. That's a tough situation.
Now just tell him to go get Tom Brady's lawyer, see if he can knock this suspension down.
Yeah, he'll get 0 games if he has his lawyer for sure.
He's available now.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach, it's very kind of you to join us, and all the best as you continue your recovery.
All right, guys, I appreciate it.
There he is, Zach Cozart. Very nice of him to take some time for us here. 2 outs and Wong at the plate. A couple of guys in Cozart and then Wainwright who are learning to fill the time. That hard rehab work has been put into things, but boy, for a line of work that is so regimented every single day for over 6 months to then be not in game action for as long as both Cozart and Wainwright have been without, that's a much different feeling.
Drives guys crazy.
Wong swinging through it as Barnhart finds it, but Wong back to the dugout. Side sat down in order for the third straight inning from DeSclafani. Tigers score off against the Indians in a game you can only see on FS1. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1. And it would not be a game in Cincinnati without a little bit of rain, and that's exactly what we have here as Brandon Phillips leads things off for the Reds in the bottom of the fourth.
Amazing. You know, it's been a weird year when the tarp has been on the field more than Zach Kozar.
That's a very good way to put it. 2-0 to Phillips. A lot of fans have taken cover in the concourse, and the wise ones brought the ponchos and also the umbrellas out to the ballpark today.
You mentioned earlier, Aaron, about Phillips and his consistency, but the fact he's got 20 bags, 20 stolen bases at age 34.
How about that?
Not slowing down at all. The last second baseman that old to get that many bases, stolen bases, he's managing the Brewers. Craig Counsell.
What that?
A decade ago.
Really?
I mean, traditionally middle infielders, they get around 32, 33, and they hit a cliff. Not this guy.
Hard chopper to Garcia. 1 up, 1 down from Lance Lynn. Now Lynn sat down the side in order in the third, had a Rocky first. Was not throwing many strikes, but seems like he's settled into things a little bit more now, facing the order the second time through.
He's got one of the more effective and unique four-seam fastballs in all of baseball. Guys just don't get on top of it. He has a very low release point for a guy who's big.
Lynn, a former first rounder in 2008 by the Cardinals out of Ole Miss, born in Indianapolis, an all-star back in 2012, now in his 5th year. Oh, 2 on Bruce.
Now, I talked about his release point. It's less than 6 feet off the ground. Watch, the hand does not get much above his head. See that low angle there? And on a four-seamer, he keeps the plane of that pitch. And it just seems to ride up on hitters. Hitters hitting only .202 off that four-seam fastball this year. And as you said earlier, Aaron, he'll just throw it and throw it and throw it.
He had a start earlier this year where he threw well over 100 pitches, and all but one of them was a fastball.
It's amazing. And a lot of guys who throw the four-seamer talk about wanting to get on top of the baseball, and he does with his hands, but he just doesn't get his hand up very high away from his head.
It's a swinging strike there on Bruce. That's the first strikeout today for Lance Lynn. 2 up, 2 down.
This has some run on it away from Bruce. Great 2-strike location. And what's the release point? The hand really doesn't get above the head. It's less than 6 feet off the ground. For a guy that big, that's actually below average vertical height on his release point.
2 outs, nobody on for Todd Frazier. Still raining here in Cincinnati, but not a heavy rain. Frazier on the first pitch. Right to Brandon Moss. 1, 2, 3. Sat down in order for the second straight inning by Lance Lynn. Of Major League Baseball. On to the top of the 5th. That's where Tony Cruz will lead things off for the Cardinals. Some rain still falling here from inside Great American Ballpark. And DeSclafani, a first pitch strike. Now the rookie right-hander for the Reds has certainly settled in. The first 3 batters reached against him, including a run in, an RBI single by Hayward. And this routine play started by Frazier makes now for 13 in a row, sacked down by DeSclafani. And right now let's check in with Ryan Field for a game break. That's odd, isn't it, Tom? A Blue Jays game With a lot of home runs, that just doesn't seem like it would add up.
They're just amazing offensively.
Garcia looking like a quick at bat here. Quiet day in left field for Schumacher, who was there for round number 2, the former Cardinal. I'm just talking about Donaldson and Encarnacion. Donaldson is putting together truly an MVP season, and Encarnacion, the RBIs, the home runs. This Blue Jays lineup is the most feared right now in baseball for good reason.
Really almost have to go back to that Rockies team, the Blake Street Bombers, the way there's such depth of power in the lineup. And I can't recall a season where so many teams, the Rangers, the Mets, and the Blue Jays, really remade themselves in July. Good teams became much better teams with significant upgrades.
And that was the story for the Blue Jays in the first half. The offense was there, the pitching wasn't. But since the deadline, since the trades and the break, the pitching has been there as well for the Blue Jays.
Bullpen's been fantastic the second half. I mean, they're really cribbing off the playbook of the Royals of last year. Both teams 50-50 after 100 games. We hadn't seen the playoffs in forever. And once they started the roll, they've been almost unstoppable.
2 outs, nobody on, 2 balls and 2 strikes to Lance Lynn. Well, at this rate, it's a good thing for the Cardinals' sake that they got a run early in the first inning. It's been 15 in a row sat down by the rookie righty out of New Jersey. Historical moments of the game. We go back to September 11th of 1985 at Old Riverfront Stadium in front of over 47,000 hometown fans. It was player manager Pete Rose collecting hit 4,192 to pass Ty Cobb, becoming the all-time hit king. And a nice pregame ceremony today here inside Great American Ballpark honoring Pete Rose. It was Pete Rose bobblehead day as well.
We had a quick shot of those smokestacks, the iconic smokestacks here at Great American Ballpark. That, a lot of people will tell you, is the one reference here to Pete Rose. Why? There's 14 of those bets. So if you want to stop a real Reds fan on the street, that's the question. If they can pass that test,
that's right.
That's a real Reds fan.
Ball and 2 strikes to Suarez. Bounced to a double play back in the second. Lance Lynn had a very rocky first inning when you talk about his command. He threw 19 pitches and 13 of those were balls. Entering this inning, he had thrown only 13 pitches outside the strike zone since. Suarez leads off with a single. And to wrap up the thought on the Hit King, 30th anniversary honored today before the game. On the field and a sellout crowd on hand to see Pete Rose get the key to the city. Very subtle hat there, I would say.
You know, watching him get that key to the city, you know, one thing hit me. What about the size of his trophy room?
Well, you're not kidding. Chopper into right. You're going to lose that key in that trophy room. Suarez pushed to second. Now the Reds went the first 4 innings without a hit.
The Battle of Brownsburg, won by Barnhart.
Brownsburg moving the rating dials today for us here in Cincinnati. Suddenly the Reds have the tying run aboard at second base to go ahead at first. He's Sclafani on to try to help his own cause here.
Wouldn't be surprised to see a wheel play here where Garcia, looks like he's already shaded over there, will run over to third base. Carpenter keeps coming in. It's exactly how they were playing it. Very difficult to execute a bunt in this situation. Obviously with the force, there's no tag play needed. Normally you want that third baseman to field the ball, but you have to make sure you really deaden it here. This is why you work on it in the cage all spring down in spring training.
Corners pinched in. Misses it that time. Two sacrifice bunts on the season for Sclafani.
Sometimes you can catch an aggressive runner by faking the wheel play, having the shortstop break early, and the second baseman will run over for a timed pickoff play. See, Jim Riggleman just had a word with Sclafani. He does swing the bat pretty well, but I would think I would leave the bunt on here.
2 strikes against him. A look at second. Suarez the single, now at second base. Barnhart singled as well.
Looks like they took the wheel off right here.
He fouls it back. Sclafani down on strikes. And for Lance Lynn, that's strikeout number 2. Now that is the risk with bunting with 2 strikes. Out number 1. And here's Billy Hamilton. And this is the first time that the Reds have had a runner in scoring position since the first inning. And Hamilton was a part of that. He led off the Reds' first inning with a walk. He made it all the way to third base. He was stranded at third. Votto was stranded at second.
And once again, his speed will compromise the defense. Wong has to play in so much closer at second base. That's why there's such a premium for Billy Hamilton to consistently hit the ball on the ground, because infielders have to compromise their range. He is not going to make a living in this league by hitting the ball in the air.
Hamilton ahead of the count. And now up 3-0. Now you get the sense that this will be a very work-filled winter for Billy Hamilton. working on his swing more, something that is so hard to do here at the major league level in season, to really try to retool things. A tweak here or there is one thing, but to strip it down is another.
Well, listen, the average National League hitter hits 139 when they hit the ball in the air, fly balls. Billy Hamilton hits 071. Reminds me of when Ozzie Smith went to St. Louis with the Cardinals, and Whitey Herzog had a guy who had the same issue.
In the air, pops him up. That average will go down a notch. Oh, Garcia able to hold on.
The infield fly anyway, but getting back to Whitey Herzog, he actually told Ozzie in spring training that he'd assist him for every ball he hit in the air. He'd fine him $3. For every ball he hit on the ground, he'd pay him $1. Well, by the All-Star break, Ozzie Smith was just killing Whitey Herzog, getting into his wallet. And Whitey said that's the end of that. But it really reinforced the issue that you have to hit the ball on the ground. Watch Billy's bat come up a little bit here. And I agree. I think to really stress the ability to put the ball on the ground, even like Ichiro, if you mishit the ball with your speed, that's actually a good thing, because you can leg out mishit ground balls.
Now, Hamilton does not need to square a pitch up in order to get a hit. There's no doubt about that. Now Suarez at second, Barnhart at first. Now it's up to the former Cardinal. One and one. Lance Lynn sat down the side in order in the third. He did so again in the fourth, both times on just 11 pitches. He walked 3 of the first 6 men that he faced in this one today. More Reds have reached base on ball 4 than they have on a hit.
Well, pretty much with that guy on deck, Joey Votto, the fastball that Lance Lynn has in this situation, you got to believe it's all fastballs from here on out against Schumacher.
Lynn takes a look at the tying run. Schumacher, a drive out to right. This has a lot behind it, and it's gone. The Reds have taken the lead on a 3-run bomb by the former St. Louis Cardinal. Skip Schumacher puts the Reds on the board.
And that's why batting order position matters. That fastball was set up, yes, by being behind on the count, but also knowing Votto on deck. You want to go after Schumacher. The problem was that was not a well-located fastball. And Skip Schumacher knew exactly what I knew. Sitting on fastball, make sure you get a good one. And he got a good one, didn't miss it.
Strike one to Votto.
To me, his fastball is better when it's a little bit up above the belt. Not that one.
Ground ball out to Colton Wong. And there is out number 3. A couple of ground ball outs in this one for Votto. Schumacher, a big swing. And that has accounted for all 3 Reds runs. They now lead it by 2. fantasy football at DraftKings.com. And by Bud Light, stay in the game and drink responsibly. You have to go back almost exactly 13 months ago to the day to find the last time that Skip Schumacher has left the yard, and it was his decisive swing here, a 3-run homer off of Lance Lynn that has given the Reds the lead.
That picture right there, the picture of St. Louis's September. Stormy weather.
It really has been. Cardinals have lost 7 of their last 9. And trying not to let this series and this month slip away. A win today by the Reds would set up a chance for a series sweep tomorrow. And meanwhile, DeSclafani pitching with the lead for the first time today, and he has been absolutely mowing through Cardinals hitters. Bruce tracking it in right field, and for the Cardinals, that is their first man to reach after DeSclafani sat down the last 15 in a row.
Well, we talked about his grit. He's a Jersey guy. Jersey strong. And he's got his buddy at third base. Let's check out the comparison between the Jersey boys. All right, Colts Neck and Tom's River. Tom's River a little bigger. You have to know the exit, right? You ask where you're from in Jersey, they say what exit. TV show, I don't know. You can take your choice between the two of those. How about the Haunted Hayride, the movie? You never heard of it, right? Well, that's the best I could come up with out of Colts Neck. And you saw the most notable resident, Springsteen, of course. Everybody knows. He's got a big horse farm there. Sam Porcello. You say, who's Sam Porcello? The late Sam Porcello. Very important person in our society. He was a food scientist who invented the cream in the middle of an Oreo cookie.
I think our work is done for the day.
So I don't know who's bigger, the boss or Sam Porcello, the king of the Oreo cream.
It's a very secret recipe.
It's about 30 minutes apart between Tom's River and Colts Neck. They did work out a little bit together, Frazier and DeSclafani, during the offseason. Anthony still lives at home with mom and dad.
Oh, why not?
Home cooking.
That's right.
Who's going to give that up?
Unlimited Oreos.
Guy who played his travel baseball for the Cust Academy Diamondbacks. Jersey all the way.
Now, as he is no doubt noticed by watching Todd Frazier, who has obviously considerably more time with the big leagues. Frazier might be a Jersey guy, but he has really embraced Cincinnati, and Cincinnati has done so right back to him. Now, he loves it here. Chopper to Phillips. The shovel on to first, not in time. Piscotty legs it out. 1 out and 1 on.
And we heard Zach Cozart earlier refer to DeSclafani as his Disco.
We did.
His nickname, right? His great nickname. He went to the University of Florida as a freshman. One of the upperclassmen didn't know how to pronounce his name. So
imagine that.
Disco. And Anthony said, that's cool because that's what they used to call my dad when he was young.
Really?
So when Anthony wins a ball game, you know what they've got going in the clubhouse. They got the disco ball working.
Time called. Tying run at the plate. And it's ball 1 to Hayward.
Hayward's one of the rare Cardinal hitters you'll see the shift against. We're so used to seeing this shift so often in baseball, but what I love about the Cardinals offense is most everyone uses the entire field. Hayward an exception.
Piscotty at first, the fielder's choice. 1-2.
Well, I haven't been counting the curveballs, Aaron, but I think he's going to get beyond the career high 16 he threw in the last start. And that's because it's been effective. It's got people off his fastball. You know, the slider's a great pitch, but to slow up a hitter, you need something with a little more difference in velocity, and that curveball's been the pitch today.
A lot of strikeouts today for DeSclafani. He's got 7, 2 off a season high. Snap throw. And Piscotty is safe following the strikeout. We're just talking about the strikeouts.
We've racked him up a lot of times with the breaking ball. There's the fastball set up by the breaking ball, which he had just done with Hayward. There's the nasty slider down and in. Terrific breaking ball right there. Slider in on the hands again. Fastball up above the belt. Again, the slider below the left-hander's hands. And here's the last one. Remember, the pitch before was the curveball. That sets up the fastball. Look how late Hayward is on that heater. It's really remarkable to see someone develop a curveball. There's a lot of people in baseball, the scouts, the evaluators, who think the ability to spin a baseball is something you either have or you don't. Very rare for a guy at a major league level to begin to develop an exceptional curveball.
He now has 9 strikeouts on the day. That ties the career high.
He did throw that pitch growing up as an amateur player, but not with the grip he has now with the spiked finger. I'll give you an idea of his competitiveness, Aaron. When he signed with the Blue Jays, his first bullpen session, they asked him if he had a cutter, and he said, "Yeah, I got one." He actually didn't. He started to throw one right there. He just feels like there's nothing he can't do.
Every once in a while, when you see a guy who throws that really good spike curve, you might also see an acrylic nail of some kind. Not often that pro ball players go to the salon shop, get a manicure, but sometimes you have to.
Knuckleball pitchers and guys who throw the spike curveball better have a good manicurist.
Inside, and Reynolds aboard a 4-pitch walk. Zangrani starting to loosen up in the bullpen for the Reds.
See the pitch count there at 96. He's a strong guy, DeSclafani. Earlier this season, through one game, 122 pitches. That's the most by any pitcher 25 or younger this year. But now is when I think the bill comes due for that 33-pitch first inning.
Pico, the pitching coach out to have a quick chat. You're right, that was a long top of the first. He stranded 2 runners. The only Cardinals run came home in that inning, the RBI single from Hayward up the middle. Look at what the rotation was last year and what the rotation is this year, and we'll see what the Reds decide to do over the wintertime. But if that's the 5 that they have next year, and who's to say, you're looking at the guy that would likely be the opening day starter for Cincinnati.
Absolutely. I think he's earned it by the way he's thrown. A lot between now and opening day next year, obviously. But right now, I think he's been their best pitcher. Interesting spot here, though. 3rd time around the lineup. He's beaten Brandon Moss with fastballs. Let's see if he stays with that plan or thinks he has to go to something a little bit different 3rd time around.
Moss rips this by the pole in right field, but he pulls it too much.
And that's the pitch he had been getting by him, the fastball in. A little bit of a wake-up call, although I think as a starting pitcher, you don't mind right here. This ball is far enough in that he can't keep this ball fair. You know, sometimes a guy squares one up and hits it foul. Not a bad thing. You put the ball in a spot where you got the foul ball. That's what you wanted, even if it was hit hard.
Moss is the go-ahead run. Reynolds the walk. Piscotty before him, the fielder's choice. He's at second. And for a young pitcher like DeSclafani, this is when you really have to pitch. The pitch count approaching 100. The gas tank running to start a little bit empty. And when you really have to go off the field.
Well, that last pitch, he shook to get to that slider. Good job by Moss not biting on that.
Evens it up 2-2.
That's a great pitch. The pitcher pitches in lanes or tunnels, if you will. The pitch before was in the same lane, the same tunnel. Moss took it because it was a slider down. This one stays in the tunnel. It doesn't break. Fastball coming off a missed pitch. That is elevated pitching. That's a guy who's not necessarily a rookie. First, the slider. Watch the ball travel on the same path that the next pitch is going to come. That one breaks out of the zone. This one, Moss thinks, going to break out of the zone. Actually comes back a little bit.
Two on, two out. A long pause and the 2-2 to Moss. Check swing. He goes around. 10 strikeouts for Anthony DeSclafani here today against the Cardinals, a team that he has had his way with this season. That's a career high in strikeouts. Phillips will lead things off for Cincinnati. Reds leading by 2. Phillips looking to reach base for the first time today.
Guy who loves the ball inside. 11 of his 12 home runs this year. Ball's middle in. Weakness, he will chase the ball down and away.
Plays off that pitch to make it 2-1. Now, Lynn has really only made one major blunder today. That was the pitch to Schumacher, a 3-run homer with 2 outs in the 5th. That's giving the Reds the lead. Ground ball snared there by Reynolds. An easy trot for out number 1. Well, here are the high fives for Anthony DeSclafani in the dugout after he worked the scoreless top of the 6th, stranded 2 base runners. Take a look at our game summary sponsored by Budweiser. It was Hayward in the 1st inning that put the Cardinals on the board early. St. Louis ended up stranding 2 base runners in that 1st inning. We talked about the home run from Schumacher, and then DeSclafani, a career high in strikeouts. And after a 33-pitch 1st inning, which time he really settled into a groove.
Just so impressive, especially when you consider at the time of the trade, the Marlins weren't sure whether he was a starting pitcher. They thought perhaps maybe just a 2-pitch guy you use out of the bullpen 6th, 7th, 8th inning. Well, you saw it today. There's no question. He has starter stuff. Skip Schumacher with the big 3-run homer.
And if there is a silver lining to what has been a very tough season here in Cincinnati, we've had a chance to take a look at some young starting pitchers. Very deep. Colton Wong, out number 2.
The shift gets another one. I had to look this up about Jay Bruce, because you think, especially when there's nobody on base, they can play actually deeper. For Jay Bruce, he only has 5 ground ball singles to right field the entire year. You don't think shifts have depressed batting averages for left-handed hitters? Absolutely have.
It's been a rough road lately for Bruce. Since the start of August, Bruce batting well beneath 200.
I think he's got to incorporate the bunt in his game, which he does not at all right now. Just every once in a while, take the hit. If nothing else, Aaron, it makes a hitter feel good about himself and his batting average. I mean, honestly,
sure.
If the team is giving you a hit, I understand there's sometimes 2 outs, nobody on. Of course, you want a home run hitter swinging the bat. But take the hit when they give it to you once in a while.
Frazier, his first hit today, reaching for the 2nd time.
Jay Bruce has tried to bunt once the whole year. His last bunt hit was in 2012. You see the drop off there, and you see previously to 2014, shifts weren't nearly as prevalent as they are now. I'm not saying that's the only reason. It certainly hasn't helped him. He's tried to bunt only 5 times in the last 3 years. It's just not often enough.
First pitch to Suarez. Oh, the threat of a bunt, there's certainly something to be said about that, especially if they're just going to give it to you.
Just put in a little bit of work, get out there early, push the bunt. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but a lot of times when the third baseman is playing the shortstop position, any kind of a bunt is good enough for a hit. Anything away from the pitcher. It doesn't have to be a great one.
It was Suarez who got the first hit of the day for the Reds off of Lynn. There goes Frazier. He's into the slide.
Well, Todd Frazier was playing possum right there. Lynn threw over a couple of courtesy throws, knowing. Watch Frazier. That's not an aggressive lead at all, but watch him go. I mean, he basically deked Lance Lynn right there. That's a schoolyard stolen base.
Learned that at Tom's River.
Learned a lot of things in Tom's River.
No doubt. 2-1. Now Suarez this year, for whatever reason, has been a much better hitter with runners on base than he has with the bases empty. His average is well over 100 points higher with runners on base. He's got Frazier at second.
You have to wonder too, again, no offense to Cruz behind the plate. Does Todd Frazier try to pull that off with Yachty behind the plate? Just makes you wonder. He does put up a stop sign.
It'll make you think about it. Stays now, goes to rather 3-2.
Always thought one of the biggest 90 feet in baseball is the 90 feet from first to second with 2 outs. So many ways you get beat. On a bloop can beat you right here. Runner on first and 2 outs, obviously not a high leverage situation. Basically, it's going to take 2 hits to score a run. Really changes the dynamic.
Well, today's telecast is sponsored by the Lincoln Motor Company and the entirely new Lincoln NKX. Two outs, Frazier. You can see at second base. Strike 3 call to Suarez. He gets his ticket punched here with Frazier in scoring position. He's having a little bit of a conversation there with Jim Joyce, the crew chief and home plate umpire. That'll take us to the 7th. .com/tickets today. We're on to the top of the 7th inning. And a new pitcher up on the mound for the Reds. DeSclafani gives way to Cingrani, who was on to work things in the 7th inning. DeSclafani, a fantastic outing, a career-high 10 strikeouts. You can see the numbers here for Cingrani.
Well, fastball slider guy, a fastball that hitters have difficulty tracking, especially left-handed hitters. And that's why you're going to see a pinch hitter right here. Randall Grichuk, the right-hander, will come off the bench.
Grichuk, who has come off the disabled list because of an elbow injury and cannot throw, but he can swing. Will lead things off for the Cardinals in the top of the 7th.
And you can see that's a little Lance Lynn-like. Lower release point, high riding four-seamer.
Well, before the injury, Grichuk was a guy that was starting to gain some traction rather than at least the conversation about National League Rookie of the Year. He's ahead now 2-1. Coming over to St. Louis in the deal for David Freese with the Angels, former first-round draft pick by Anaheim.
Good at bat right here. This is a guy with tremendous power. Very, very strong. One knock is still learning the strike zone and plate discipline. So far, so good. First 4 pitches here.
And he'll take a leadoff walk. Well, this was Wednesday at Wrigley. We told you he can swing the bat, pardon me, at Busch Stadium, but cannot throw. And this is right out of the sandlot.
Design play right there. The other outfielder's aware of this. Took a chance running him out there with a left-handed pitcher on the mound, John Lester. It did cost them a couple of extra bases in that game, but that's the risk they were willing to take to get the bat in the lineup.
First pitch strike to Cruz. Cruz at the plate representing the tying run. Cishek warming up inside the bullpen for the Cardinals.
Sorry about that. Mike Matheny looks like he wants to give Molina the entire day off, or perhaps saving him for an 8th or 9th inning at bat.
It was a little bit of a surprise to not see Molina in the lineup today. Remember, this is, at least has the feeling at least of game 2 today, as these two teams had to play the rest of what was a suspended game from last night because of rain. As they picked it up, a tied game of the 8th inning, it was the Reds who ended up winning thanks to a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 8th by Adam Duvall. And then Chapman came on to work a 1-2-3 top of the 9th to get his 30th save. Cingrani drafted and developed by the Reds. Former 3rd-round draft pick in 2011. Was used mostly as a starter each of the last couple of years, but now essentially a reliever exclusively.
See Cruz not able to stay off those high fastballs from Cingrani. Again, it's not premium velocity, a little slightly above average, but it really comes with the way he throws the baseball and get that late life up in the zone.
Grichuk a leadoff walk. This gets away from Barnhart. And Grichuk easily coasting to second. Leadoff walk looks like a double now.
I'm not sure what happened here. Yeah, bounced. He did get the body in front of it, but again, the spin of the breaking ball, the ball will bounce opposite of the spin. And that's a big 90 feet, because if Cruz hits the ball on the ground, that's a double play. Cingrani mostly a fly ball pitcher, but Cruz is not going to beat out anything on the ground on the second end of a double play.
Two balls and 2 strikes to Cruz after the wild pitch. Full count. Now Cingrani facing the bottom third of the order, but this is a big sequence of at-bats here with Grichuk at second, tying run at the plate. To Suarez, and a very easy out, number 1.
Again, he's got Peralta on the bench, Mike Matheny. He's going to let Garcia hit. I think a couple of reasons here. Garcia has been swinging the bat well these last couple of days. And also Cingrani, not really a matchup, classic matchup left-hander. Doesn't have really that wipeout breaking ball that you see left on left highlights.
Starts him off with a strike 1. Hands him back.
Well, he likes to keep that fastball above the belt. That one's up by the chin as well.
Keeps an eye on Grichuk. Now the count shifts to Garcia's favor.
Left-handers 250 against Cingrani. Right-handers 226. Again, this is bat all fastball so far. Just trying to get on top of that high fastball. That's the difficulty. Garcia's got to be very selective right here. What you'll get 3-1 fastball, same you'll get 3-2.
And he walks him. Cingrani out of the bullpen has walked 2 of the first 3 men that he's faced here in the 7th. Now we saw Tommy Pham on deck swinging away to back, but it will not be Pham. Instead it will be Peralta.
It's been the last couple of months have been rough for Johnny Peralta. Just 1 home run, 4 extra base hits these last 2 months. Really has been wearing down. Thus the day off today, and finds himself in a big spot right here in the 7th.
Peralta the go-ahead run. Grichuk at second. He walked. And out later, Garcia just walked. Now this was almost the identical situation the Cardinals found themselves in just an inning ago in the 6th. They had 2 on with 2 out in that case. And it was Moss to strike out to end the inning. Oh, and 2.
That's the pitch you have to stay off. Peralta, great fastball hitter, much better against the fastball than off speed. But that's the bait Cingrani wants you to take. The fastball above the belt.
Cingrani in the driver's seat here.
Would not be surprised to see him go back to the same spot a third time.
2-2. You can see some frustration there on Cingrani's face. Brian Price looking on. Peralta the go-ahead run. 1 out, 2 on the 2-2. Shatters the bat. Cingrani has to duck for cover. Frazier to Phillips on the Votto. Around the horn for the double play. Big time pickup by the defense behind Tony Cingrani. He's just happy he survives this. That barrel's coming right at him. And it all starts with the backhand from Frazier. Is sponsored by the all-new 2015 Jeep Renegade and by T-Mobile. Switch to the Data Strong network. A lot of changes for the Cardinals as Moss moves from right field to first base. Meanwhile, Carpenter from third to second. Reynolds goes across the grass from first to third base, and Pham is off the bench. She's in right field. And a new pitcher, it is Cishek. One-time closer for the Marlins up on the mound to pitch here in the bottom of the 7th.
Smart play by Barnhart right there. Bunt was definitely in order there. Mark Reynolds playing deep at third. Just couldn't get it down.
One and one. To left center. Hayward getting a little bit of a rare start in center field. Tracks it down for round number 1.
I thought this was a great pitch by Cingrani. Struggling with one pitch, commanded the fastball, but made the one pitch he had to. With 2 runners on, blows up the bat, gets the ground ball double play. Very difficult to navigate an inning. And you're essentially working with one pitch without terrific command.
We'll take a look at the StatCast powered by Amazon Web Services. We take a look at the turn there by Phillips.
It's all about the exchange. Some fast hands from the Gold Glover.
This is Brennan Bosch off the bench in the pitcher's spot. And we'll take a look at that turn once again.
Of course, this StatCast, as you mentioned, .7 of a second. That was how short the exchange took.
Well, for the Cardinals, in a month that has not treated them well, they've lost 7 of their last 9. They've now had 2 straight innings with runners at first and second base, and the go-ahead run coming to the plate. It was Moss who struck out in the 6th. Then you just saw the double play ball. Cishek traded from Miami to St. Louis near the end of July. Was approaching the 100 save mark for his career during his time with the Marlins. Count now pushes full to Bosch.
See him ask Jim Joyce, was that ball down? He was ready to walk off the mound right there, thinking he had strike 3.
And a walk. 1 out walk puts Bosch aboard at first base.
Cishek and Broxton both brought in here to St. Louis because the Cardinals don't have a dynamic offense, even in the best of times. Play so many close games. But Seth Maness, Kevin Seagrass, the setup men to Rosenthal, Trevor Rosenthal, and they were getting overworked, and they needed some reinforcements. Bring in 2 former closers.
Ball 1 to Billy Hamilton. Right back to Cishek, and it squirts out of Garcia's glove.
Well, you almost saw something you almost never see. And that's a ground ball double play from Billy Hamilton, only 6 in his career, but this could have been 2. Yes, even with Hamilton running, the throw is right there. But in the haste, Garcia just doesn't keep his eyes on the baseball. It's easy to say that knowing who the runner is out of the batter's box, Billy Hamilton influenced the young Garcia.
You'd have to think so. Here's Schumacher, the man with a 3-run homer that has made for all 3 Reds runs here today. That came in the 5th. For Schumacher, that was his first home run in almost exactly 13 months.
So I'll forgive him for sliding into first base.
That's right. I was back in the 3rd on what was just a tremendous play by Garcia after we just saw Garcia lose it out of the glove. Jordan Maness warming up.
That was Seagrass up with him. sinker ball pitchers always feel in this situation you're just one pitch away. Get a rollover ground ball, get in the dugout.
A win today for the Reds, if they can hold on, would mean a series win, and they'd have a chance for a sweep, a rare 4-game sweep of the Cardinals tomorrow. Full count. Cishek taking over for Lance Lynn, who went 6 innings in the start. And a walk, the second this inning from Cishek. Bases suddenly full. Here comes Mike Matheny. He's talking things over with Jim Joyce. The home plate umpire will step aside. Bases full, 1 out. Not a tremendous first half. He's been off the charts in the second half, Tom.
Well, there's a reason why. Early in the season, much more straight up. Now you see him much into his knees, much more into his knees, more powerful position. The other thing you notice, the load with the hands. He's got them a little bit lower. There's a little more rhythm in the hands. The big thing is using his lower half, getting the backside through the baseball to the front side. Watch this front foot. It will roll over as he exchanges the weight to the front side. Wasn't doing that in the first half of the season.
He faces Kevin Seagrist fresh out of the bullpen. To center field. Hayward giving chase, fielding for the wall, and he makes the catch. Ends up being a long sacrifice fly for Joey Votto. Brennan Bosch coming down the line from third to score, and the Reds tack on a run.
Had been 0 for 8 against Kevin Seagrist. And again, we talked about how he does like to ambush on first pitch fastballs. Great hit. Watch the lower half get into this baseball. driven so deep to center, the Cardinals had to hustle this ball in with Billy Hamilton at second base. It's a guy with a lot of leg injuries, lower half last year. And as he's gotten more healthy, he's gotten more power, getting the lower half more involved in the swing.
Three-run cushion now for the Reds. Runners on the corners for Phillips, who goes after the first pitch.
Skip Schumacher, I think, looking to do the same thing we saw from Joey Votto 3 times in the last 2 days, and that is with Hamilton on third, take off for second. If they throw through, you stop getting a rundown. If they don't cover, just keep going.
Oh, 2. Now, it's tough to call Segrist a fresh arm. He's making his 70th appearance of the year.
I don't think there's any way they throw down because Reynolds is so far from third base. Hamilton is so far away from third. I know there's 2 outs, but that's just a risk you can't take to give up another run.
The 0-2 just gets a piece.
And he was running that time. This is a little bit different. That looks more like a straight steal than we saw Joey Votto attempt earlier. In any case, I think you have to take that back. If I were Tony Cruz, I'd be telling Segrist right there, I don't care. You've got an 0-2 count on the hitter, 2 outs. Execute your pitch. See, they'll actually play behind him now, give him the base.
There he goes. Outside, and he will trot into second.
No disguising at all. I thought they were giving him the base the entire at bat, but no camouflage even there. Go ahead, take it. Now it's up to Segrist to execute a pitch.
Segrist has had his number called more than any other reliever in baseball this year. And he's 1 pitch away from sending this game to the top of the 8th. And that is exactly what he does. Phillips 0 for 4 as the Reds strand 2 in scoring position, but they grab a run. Joey Votto on what turns out to be a mile deep sacrifice fly to center field. Already underway. Stephen F. Austin versus TCU. Hawaii against the #1 Buckeyes. But at 4 p.m. Eastern, Iowa and Iowa State. They'll battle for the Cy-Hawk Trophy right here on Fox. And later tonight, Stanford opens up their home schedule against Central Florida on FS1. It's all day today, sponsored by Geico.
So you're saying, as we see the changes here, Ryan Lamar in left field. As the Reds go to the defensive platoon. Badenhop on the mound here. Sinker ball pitcher. First guy he faced is a guy I was going to say might be a little bit distracted with TCU playing right now.
That's
Matt
right.
Carpenter. He is 5 for 12 against Badenhop in his career.
Proud product of TCU.
In fact, our buddy Adam Wainwright told Carpenter this year if he hit 20 home runs, he'd buy him a golf cart. And he did. He made sure he got it in TCU purple.
And why wouldn't he? That couldn't have been easy to find.
I was thinking of that. You get it customized?
You have to.
And I can just see Matt making a run down the street to the grocery store for milk. His purple golf cart.
All chromed out. Well, we know that Carpenter is a huge football fan. We go back to last October, Oklahoma State versus TCU. You know, they've got the play boards. They signal to the players on the field, defensive play cards, and head coach Gary Patterson actually used this one in game with Matt Carpenter on it. So he loves the Horned Frogs, and apparently he's a big part of what they do on the field as well. He left TCU their all-time record holder in at-bats and games as well. Hamilton a long way to go for round #1. I think Gary Patterson's the only other guy with a purple golf cart. That's a head football coach, right?
Yeah, that comes with the contract. You know, definitely some urgency seeping into a Cardinals season that to this point had been entirely on cruise control.
Stephen Piscotty, 1 for 3 on the day.
Part of it, yes, have been the injuries. They've done a tremendous job withstanding injuries, in part because of contributions from people like Piscotty, but it's almost waiting for the cavalry at this point. Matt Holliday. Colton Wong back in the lineup today. Randall Grichuk, not yet an everyday player. The offense has definitely turned south.
Now, Holliday has started running the bases, and that is the final step for him. Just getting down the motion of starting and stopping. Tries to work back from the quad injury. And he's close. Well, then you wonder just how much rust, even for a veteran in Holliday, that you have to kick off.
And Matt Adams as well.
For sure.
He's close to coming back, but almost 5 months off.
Hayward on deck. And Piscotty cuts right through it for round #2. Keep up with the pennant races in true HD quality on MLB.TV Premium. Watch every out-of-market game live on more than 400 supported devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more. Visit MLB.TV today.
You might have heard that that great ovation for what seemed like a nice strikeout, but nothing special. It's special, all these people in the stands. Count them up. That's 11. You know what that means, Aaron?
I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Free pizza.
Free pizza. Looks like we've got a meal to squeeze in before a flight home, Tom.
What a day for these people. Pete Rose bobblehead. So far, a Reds win. And free pizza. Doesn't get any better than that.
1-1 to Hayward. Getting back to what you were saying, Tom, about the Cardinals and the injuries. it's frightening for the other teams in the National League, and especially in the Central, namely the Pirates, who are nipping at the Cardinals' heels, to think about where St. Louis would be if they had Wainwright, if they had Holiday for the entire season, if they had Adams for the entire season. This is a team that leads the game in wins and somehow has been able to navigate it with so many injuries. You look at the Nationals, they've been devastated by injuries, and their record has actually reflected that.
Yeah, it's a credit to Matheny and his staff with the job that they've done. A little bit of the cavalry coming back right here with Matt Adams. You see 44 games. That's it. He's back in the batter's box right here to take a pinch hit appearance. Biggest thing for me is the time of year this is now occurring. As you mentioned, every team is going to go through some kind of a dip, some kind of a slide. You'd like to have it out of the way before you get to mid-September.
Adams out from the end of May until Thursday, when he came to the game in a similar spot to this.
Issues get magnified in April and September. Big losing streak in April. You really have nothing to judge a team on, so you wonder how good they are. Tough times in September. Well, now you can't say there's time to recover.
Away from the shift, and an easy, almost a handoff to second base. That'll do it for the top of the 8th inning. We go to the home half. It's the Reds by 3. And by DraftKings, free 1-week fantasy football at DraftKings.com. Want to have a favorite baseball memory? Go to #MLB Memory Bank to share yours. Pete Cosmo, the new second baseman off the bench, takes over for Carpenter, who began the game at third and is now back at third base. First pitch missing low for ball 1 to Jay Bruce, beginning the bottom of the 8th. We were talking, Tom, earlier when we saw the conclusion of game 2 of this series, a suspended game that was picked up today in the 8th inning, as we see that man, Aroldis Chapman, warming up. Only 11 pitches for a 1-2-3 ninth inning to pick up his 30th save of the season. And this game is setting up for the Cardinals to see Chapman twice in one day, which is not at all what you want to have happen to you.
No, especially after that show that he put on in the resumption of the suspended game. Right here, Segrist. I'm sure this will be the only hitter that he faces. You hate to burn up a real key setup guy for you in a low leverage spot, really down 4-1, where you don't have him for tomorrow. So Manus is up with the right-handers coming up behind Bruce.
Pop up near the line. Piscotty, Carpenter, fair ball. Now that just drops in. They had the shift on as they do against Bruce, and he hits a flare, a rainbow that just drops in fair.
Things going the way of the Reds. Just too far for Piscotty to run right here. And watch Matt Carpenter, how far he's going to run to try to track this thing down. Just keep going. Still can't get there.
So Manus coming in. That'll be it for Segrist. We'll step aside. A leadoff double for Bruce. Randy Moss, Chris Thompson, and the all-new Fox NFL Kickoff. Then at noon, join Terry Howie and the gang for America's #1 pregame show, Fox NFL Sunday, featuring a one-on-one interview with Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson. It all begins tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, only on Fox. Seth Manus, we've seen him a lot over the course of this season for the Cardinals. He was on here with Bruce behind him after the double. Into the seats for strike one.
Interesting matchup right here. Sinker ball pitcher with a great low ball hitter. The history might be what you expect. 4 out of 9. 4 for 9 with a home run. Frazier against Manus.
Manus is making his 69th appearance on the season. Socked left field. Piscotty settles on the track to make the catch. Bruce tagging and in at third base. One out, a man at third, and we'll check in with Ryan Field. All right, boy, that one's getting close. You can see the American League East standings. Teixeira out for the year. Fractured bone in his shin. Brian Cashman waited as long as he could before finding out that that would be it for Teixeira. There is Suarez, 1 out, and Bruce 90 feet from home.
It seems like Brandon Moss is 90 feet from first base. An infield shift with the infield in. Check out this alignment.
They continue to take new forms, don't they?
My goodness.
And it's like a new baseball. Suarez got the first hit today for the Reds. That did not come until the 5th inning. Two and two.
Just watching Jay Bruce on that. I would not expect the contact play to be on here. With the infield up. Could take a chance with a lead. But with no other runners on base, really doesn't make sense. You would rather see the ball through at this point. Barnhart on deck.
Three balls and 2 strikes. Stays alive. Bruce a double move to third base. Now the deep fly ball out by Frazier. And a walk here. Runners on the corners. Follow the September pennant races with MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Enjoy live look-ins, highlights, replay reviews, scores, the new StatCast, radio broadcast, and more. Get the MLB.com at bat now. That brings in Barnhart, the catcher. There goes Suarez. It's into center field. Bruce scores as Suarez makes the turn into third. The Reds grab another run. They now lead it 5-1 at the bottom of the 8th.
Everything going the Reds' way. Like the choice. First pitch, start the runner to stay out of a double play. And you get more than you bargained for. Nice job shortening up to put the ball in play. Ends up with a knock and a ribby.
Avante Jesus Jr. off the bench. Down to the #9 spot.
I'm sure Brian Price knows the number. Seth Maness gets an extraordinary amount of ground ball double plays. It's about double the average major league rate when it's in order. And he's around the plate, so you can start runners against him.
That pitch low to make it 1-1.
Jesus wasn't even looking down at that point. Had to get his attention.
Inside, as Barnhart's kind of the middle, throwing to third base, and everybody will be safe.
Right back where we started.
Just burned a couple calories.
Put his head down. He did the right thing by not running into the out at second. Induces the throw over to third, but then you got to keep your head up. Continue on to second. He already started to make a beeline back to first. Guess no harm, no foul, right? He's doing the right thing here. You're out, so just stop, get yourself in a rundown. But right there, he's got time to get back to the second base.
One out, runners on the corners. Check swing.
You know, there's one thing that last run did, Aaron. Sat down Aroldis Chapman, Jumbo Diaz up in the bullpen. It's the one stat in the game that determines how a manager uses his closer. The save situation no longer in order. Chapman sits down.
Cuts right through it, and DeJesus off the bench will head back that way. Two outs, runners first and third, and here comes Billy Hamilton looking for his first hit today. Hamilton, a right-handed hitter naturally, and has adopted switch hitting. It's been a struggle for Hamilton on the left side. You would think with his blazing speed and the head start that he would get batting left-handed like we're about to see him do here, that it would be worth it, but it's been a struggle.
It has been. I know there's been some talk, not a whole lot, but some talk about him giving up switch hitting. I wouldn't do it. I don't think he's at that point. It's actually a better swing right there, shorter to the baseball, but with his speed from the left side, you want to take advantage of that. Right now, I don't see a big enough split where he's that much different left and right to say go ahead, give it up, back to the right side.
A run in here in the bottom of the eighth for the Reds. And Hamilton behind 1-2. And Hamilton, a prolific base stealer, historic base stealer in the minor leagues. And the struggle now is just to get him on base. Leading the big leagues entering today in steals at 56. That's it for Hamilton. That's it for the Reds as they strand two, but they get a run. The RBI knock from Barnhart. We go to the top of the ninth. Cardinals last chance. MLB memory bank to share yours. Well, here we go on to the top of the 9th inning. It has been a cloudy day all afternoon here from Cincinnati as Jumbo Diaz, named for a reason, up on the mound. Takes over for Baden-Hop. And the Cardinals down to their final 3 outs. They're down by 4 runs. Diaz 6'4", 280 out of the Dominican Republic. A long time minor leaguer. In fact, he spent parts of 13 seasons in the minors with different organizations. He'll face Moss to begin the top of the 9th. Starts him off with strike 1.
He actually was at a crossroads in his career when he got too big. There was too much jumbo to jumbo. Lost a lot of weight. Got himself back on the track. Kind of broke through here out of the bullpen. Big power arm.
And that apparently got a piece of the bat. It's 0-2.
Just been real tough for Brandon Moss to get on track, especially against the fastball.
That'll move his feet. 98. Cuts right through some heat. And Moss, unfortunately for his case, with the sombrero today. That's his 4th punch out.
Well, we've talked about it all day. They've been attacking with the fastball. And this you're just not going to get to. 97. Well above the hands. Seems swing under that fastball. Very tough to get on top of a pitch that hard, that high.
When you talk about the long journey for Jumbo Diaz, he provided the minor leagues with one of the best highlights of the year, at least one of the most entertaining ones. Back in 2012, he was in the Pirates system as John Jay climbs in. And he actually ended up on the base paths. He stole a base. And the entire ballpark rumbled.
I'm surprised they didn't stop the game and present the base to him. Put up a brass plaque.
Boy's second base above his helmet. Jay missing so much time this year. We talk about the injuries to the Cardinals this year, and can't leave John Jay off the list. Pretty serious wrist injury. In fact, for Jay, that injury was so painful and had lingered for so long that even going back to last year, in the second half of the season, most of the time he could not take batting practice.
And I know we've talked a lot about the injuries, and it's not an excuse. They're real, they happen, but you can't, if you're the Cardinals, like the way you've been losing these games. They've not been sharp offensively or especially on a mound. A team that, you know, the team ERA has been the best since going back almost 40 years coming into September. Now the team ERA in September is above 6. 7 walks today. That's not going to cut it. The offense producing 1 run. It's urgent time now for the Cardinals. Pirates, they're a win away if this scores hold up.
Yeah.
Being 2.5 games out. Cardinals lead hasn't been that small since the middle of July.
Well, the Cardinals coming off a 4-5 homestand where the pitchers really got knocked around. They lost 2 of 3 to the Pirates. They dropped 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. And some of the final scores: 9-0, 7-1, 9-3, 8-5. Just giving up way more runs than you're used to seeing Cardinals pitchers surrender.
Now, do I think this team is going to be fine? Yeah, I do. But the spot they're in right now is a spot of concern because of what you just mentioned. Not getting consistent pitching.
Gets a piece.
You saw Jim Joyce mention that ball hit the ground before that third strike was called. But listen, I know Cardinals Nation, they've been spoiled for 5 months. And I'm not saying you panic or worry, but there's definitely concern with the direction this team is headed right now.
It feels like a little bit of a different team for sure on what was and what has been their strength all season long. You look at the best starting pitching, the best relief pitching in the game, and you mentioned the historic pace that they've been on for so long this season.
And you kind of look offensively like, where's the spark coming from? Peralta has hit a wall here in these last couple of months. Grichuk just working his way back. Moss still has issues to get his timing. Matt Adams just getting back, waiting on Matt Holliday.
One thing we do know for sure, however, is that Mike Matheny has the exact same demeanor after what might have been a 4-5 homestand or a 9-0 homestand. He does not change at all.
I'll say it again. I liked his lineup today. The fact he didn't panic and put Peralta and Molina in the lineup when they were due for rest.
Soft ground ball up the middle. Two outs. Cardinals down to their final out today. Well, we'll go back to the 5th inning. It was Schumacher with our Bank of America play of the game. And that put the Reds on the scoreboard. And they haven't looked back since.
2 runners on. Joey Votto on deck. Challenge fastball to Skip Schumacher. And he was up for the challenge.
Now the Reds are 1 out away from securing a series win against the Cardinals. And that would set up a chance for a sweep tomorrow. Cincinnati has not had a 4-game sweep of the Cardinals since May of 2003.
The Cardinals have had their way with this Cincinnati team for the last 5-6 years.
Oh, 2. Reds had a lopsided win in game 1 of this series on Thursday, pardon me. Ended up winning last night's game today after it was suspended in the 8th inning. It was Adam Duvall with a 2-run homer in the 8th this afternoon and put the finishing blow on the Cardinals. And now it is Jumbo Diaz on the mound here in the 9th to try to secure the series win. Fought off right field. Bruce and a foul ball. Well, tomorrow it'll all wrap up. Michael Wacha with his sub-3 earned run average, and then Raisel Iglesias, one of the 5 rookie starters in the rotation for Brian Price. That'll be the pitching matchup tomorrow afternoon here from Cincinnati. The schedule for the Reds the rest of the season not easy at all, and you can say the same thing about the Cardinals. They'll still have another series against the Pirates left.
Well, toughest division in baseball. I mean, that's one thing about going through a stretch, losing 7 out of 9 coming into this game for the Cardinals. You don't have room to breathe. There's no margin for error when the Pirates and Cubs continue to play as well as they have been.
win it. They have secured a series win. And the slide for the Cardinals continues. We'll take a look at the updated standings here as the Pirates now within 3.
Well, now I think it is concern time. Not panic, concern.
Rod Stone and college football coming back after this timeout.